Well, hello, everybody. It's great to see you. This is I guess it's the second installment of the Brave Space, Safe Space series. And we're going to be talking about white culture. Does it exist? If so, what is it? Before I really kind of launch, I want to thank Nancy Brown for all the work she does in getting this organized. Nancy, you are just invaluable, and I profoundly appreciate the work that you are doing, that you have done and are doing. So thanks. Tonight, I'd like to split our discussions into two parts. For those of you who saw the Brave Space, Safe Space initial presentation, I talked about before one launches into potentially challenging topics, that it's a good idea to think about guidelines or rules of the road. How are we going to interact with each other? And I'm mindful that, and we were just talking about this before we began, about New York Times and such like that, having articles about diversity trainings, and particularly mandatory diversity trainings. And there's some suggestion that they're not working too well. Who wants to be, told what you have to do or think? So what we're trying to do here is to set up a series of discussions where we can really share our thoughts and create brave but safe spaces. So I hope this won't be a mandatory DEI training, but rather a good discussion. The first step then is really to consider and formulate some rules of our interaction. And in doing these rules of the road or guidelines, and we'll be coming up with them. That's us. We're coming up with them. That's our rules. In doing so, I'd like you to think about, why did you choose to come tonight? We're not here to fix whiteness or racism, but to think about our relationship to these concepts. And as we all know, and I presume you've experienced some discomfort sometimes talking about these kind of topics, but they can also motivate us to go to some new places, think new ideas, learn about ourselves, and so on. As we do these rules, they're not immutable. In other words, it's not like, once we come up with them, that's it. So along with the notice of the meeting, I think you got an exhibit about sample ground rules. I don't know if you've had a chance to read them, but voila, Nancy has put them up for us to take a look at. I think what would probably be a good idea is just take a moment or two. Maybe people can read these. Again, I'm not saying these need to be our rules. They were just rules that I picked up from, various different places. So take a look. And, we could just have one line or two lines or no lines. But I'd appreciate you taking a look at this and offering at this point, you can use your raise hand function about what are our ground rules? What should they be? So whenever anyone has a comment, just let her rip. Linda, breaking the ice. There you go. Thanks.
That's right. Well, I love the how we listen. Well, actually, it's all good, but it's a lot to remember if it's new for us. But one of the things and how we speak, I think, speak our truth with compassion. I've noticed that the second sentence there recognizes our experiences and provides facts and details. And I went thinking about one of the values of AEW is our positions are fact-based. So I wanted to emphasize, I think that one is important, at least for me.
So as I'm hearing it, if we just took those 6 points under how we listen and how we speak, that really is a sufficient series of guidelines for us to engage in discussions. So that's what I'm hearing.
Well, I would say that's a good start.
All right.
If we can do all of them, but my impression is that most of us, for a first time around, can't follow that many rules at once.
Okay. Yep.
Those are the most important, I think.
All right. Sue.
Actually, I like this. I like the way it works out. And I would really love to be able to utilize a lot of this at my office. I think it would be great for the workplace too. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Yeah, I plucked these from several different areas, and obviously there were some repeats and such like that, but go for it. And so you're saying the whole set is something that we should adopt.
I think it's something we need to be aware of, because I agree with Linda, the first two are primary, but I think the others are also important for follow-up, because I think most of us are a little deeper and a little more respectful than perhaps in your average conversation.
Yeah.
That's why I'm thinking that these would actually work well for my office. Just saying.
Okay. Well, I think we all have become salaried employees now. That's great. Lisa.
The first 6 points I think are really great. And I think that the other ones in a lot of ways are expanding on and building on those first 6. And if we're really conscious of those first 6, a lot of the other ones are going to fall in place.
So what would you think about if we, I don't know, said something like primary rules, and then the first 6, and then additional or some language like
or
that.
Expanding on these, how this works in practice. There's also, I don't see anything on there that may or may not be important, that if we're talking in here, this is private. I'm not going to go back to a meeting and say, so-and-so said such and such in this meeting. That I will be taking back information and things I have learned, but I'm not going to be tying anything. I'm not going to be talking about people's personal experiences.
Oh, that is awesome, Lisa. That is awesome suggestion. I'm kind of scribbling these down, and at the end, of our discussion about our ground rules, I'm going to kind of summarize them, and make the suggestion, and then ask if anyone has any objections. Let me know. Otherwise, we'll adopt them. But I believe Marilyn is next in the queue.
Okay. Personally, I think that there is too much in here.
Okay.
I think that the headings are good, and maybe just one line under each one. I also think that it could be simplified about using the I statements. I think that's where they talked about our own experience and things, but that's pretty basic about using I statements. And so that would be, and the confidentiality, I think that does need to be added into. But for me, this is way too much to really have people adhere to it and understand it.
Is there anything in particular that you think is superfluous? And one of the things we can do here is, as I say, these rules are not immutable and they're subject to change. What we could do is, because we're going to be talking about white culture, later, which may trigger the use of these rules, that, including some of the changes that have been suggested. But then maybe after this, either you and I could communicate, or other people could communicate with me saying, Lisa Marilyn had a really good idea. Here are my thoughts about that too. Does that sound, Marilyn, is that like?
Well, I think so. And actually, it had occurred to me before, and I looked at it again. We are committed to utilizing restorative conflict resolution processes.
Mhm.
How many people know what that means?
Well,
How many people do it?
Well, to me, a statement like that would then need to say, what is restorative conflict resolution process? So
Okay.
anyway, okay, I'm done.
I'm just writing down the notes. Good. This is awesome, you guys. Okay.
I just
Nadine.
want to say, this is Nancy. I just want to say that restorative conflict resolution process may be a whole other session.
Mhm.
Yes. So,
Good point.
so when I'm gonna do that. Okay. I'm writing down notes as I say, when we finish, I'm gonna say, okay, here's our plan. Do you agree? But Nadine.
Yeah, rather than taking away, I think what's missing is, for me, body language is very important.
Okay.
And particularly if you're going to have a mixed mixed group of people, everybody gives away their innermost thoughts by just how they do body language. And the body has to be comfortable. And the question is, how do you make your body comfortable?
Well, can you come up with, like, when you say body language, what I think about is, like, let's say I really disagree with you. I'll say, yeah, I disagree with you. My body language is saying no, while my words are saying yes. Is that the kind of thing you're referring to?
That, and also being uncomfortable in the situation. It's amazing if people are in a situation with different classes or different races, how they exude uncomfortableness or rudeness.
Well, one of the, yes.
And that's very difficult to concentrate on, because you have to make your body comfortable regardless of what the conversation is, because nobody is saying honest conversation anyway.
Well,
So you have to make your body be the first statement.
Okay. One of the items here, which I guess I feel sort of addresses that, but you may be right that there needs to be something a little bit more direct, and that is, we're mindful of the energy we bring into this space. So I'm going to mull over that comment, Nadine. Good suggestion. Marilyn.
Well, oops, my comment on body language is it can be so misread. And so I'm quite hesitant, and I'm not quite sure about your body being comfortable. I'm not quite sure where that is going. I just don't understand it. But relying too much on body language to me is quite risky. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Well, Nadine, would you like to respond to that?
The one thing everybody, if you're in a room with people who speak different languages, or you're in a room with people of all different nationalities and races, the first thing everybody pays attention to is body language. Because they don't know whether what you're saying is polite or not polite, or just a way to avoid conversation. I've been in a lot of rooms and seen a lot of rudeness. And I've been in rooms where there wasn't any. And a lot of it depended upon the body language. People standing in a line, moving away, trying not to be near, trying not to, it's going against all the good, well, I would call it lack of good manners, is body language.
Well, let me ask you both, Marilyn and Nadine or anyone else. Do you have a suggestion as to how we might resolve this difference of thought? Nancy? No.
No, I was just getting in line.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna hold that question, but Nancy, did you have something to offer?
Well, I was looking at the chat, and Leah had posted in chat, and I don't know that everyone saw it. So if it's all right with you that I'm going to read it, is that okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Where's Leah? Oh, I can't see her nodding her head, so I'm just going to do it. She says she's new, so I likely just listen mostly, but it seems these rules are a solid base and that most of them are how we should know how to operate within a discussion process in general. Keeping them all will help us identify how to address when something comes up that may be outside one of these. Not that we have to remember them all, but simply know we can refer back to the list if something were to happen.
Awesome. Thank you, Leah. Mary.
Yes, I would like to maybe refine the statement about body language.
Okay,
I would say be aware of your own body language and be respectful in your body language of others. Be aware that, I know it's very easy to, roll your eyes or, have your arms crossed or something like that, and you're not even aware of it, but you're sending a message and you're not respecting another person. But be aware to respect others with your body language.
Okay, great suggestion. I am eventually going to, go back to Nadine and Marilyn, but Janet, it looks like you have a thought.
I think you can misread body language so much, especially people from different countries, different cultures, different religion, and you can end up in doo-doo.
Yeah. Okay, it looks to me as if Carol has a something she'd like to weigh in on.
I have trouble finding any difficulty with any of these ground rules. I think they're all, some of them are more specific than others, but they all are really basic, how we present ourselves and how we respect other people. And, I don't want to be nitpicking about any of them. I think they're all reasonable expectations.
All right, thank you. Nancy?
I'm going to be different people as I read the chat.
Sure, no, I understand. Great.
Georgia reminded us that body language in person is different from camera presence on Zoom, because you can't see me, with my arms clenched and being annoyed. All you see is my face. So that's something else that when we actually meet in person and with other people that we're meeting with in person, it's different. And we can't see ourselves, on Zoom. I can see myself and I can see how I'm presenting and what my weird hair is doing and all that sort of stuff. So that's kind of a fascinating part about the whole online thing.
So as I'm hearing Georgia, and she can chat if I'm not catching it, but that we need to be mindful that in the context of body language, we need to be mindful of Zoom, of the impact of Zoom on that. Okay. Let's see, Marilyn and Nadine, do you have a suggestion as to how we might either add something, not add something, or what's your thought?
Well, the other lady, and I'm sorry, I forgot her name,
Marilyn?
where she was saying being aware of your body and be aware of what you are doing with your body. And I think that's probably the best advice you could give somebody, be aware of what message your body is sending. Because sometimes you're not aware of it. And she went, and the way she phrased it was excellent.
Well, how about this? Either I can come up with some sort of amalgamation of what I believe you all are saying and send you an email and see if you have any language, changes. And then the next time we meet, we can, vote it. Yes, I know, Georgia, we're already 25 minutes into it, but this is really important.
Mhm.
So it seems to me that a little offline discussion that then would be presented to the whole group would be helpful. If I hear any objection, I don't. Okay. So as I see this, there's general agreement that these seem to be good rules, that we need to add something about confidentiality, and I'd be more than happy to do that. There's a comment about maybe summarizing by looking to using I statements as opposed to some of the verbiage here. So I'll try to come up with something. And I think, Marilyn, that was yours as well, if I'm getting this right. A lot of you have been talking, so it's hard for me to keep track. I will do the primary, secondary, a proposed redraft. I think Lisa had suggested that. And I'll try to come up with something with the body language and along with, Georgia's suggestion. So again, my proposal is to make those changes and then presumably not in quite as long a session, but we can just briefly weigh in to see if someone has any major objections. And, if you do, you do. This is what it's all about. Being understanding, listening, and being willing to hear that there are different points of view. And may I say a plus to you all for what you've done so far. Okay, any thoughts about, should I adopt another approach, or should we adopt another approach in the ground rules? Okay, hearing no objection. Let's start talking about white culture. Does it exist? If so, what is it? And we may or may not finish discussion of this topic. And frankly, you may be expecting an email from me asking if you think we should continue talking about it or going on to another DEIB topic. I'm not exactly sure how frequently we should have these discussions, and if you want to weigh in on that, that's a good idea as well. I was kind of thinking monthly, but maybe every other month. So before we launch into the question, I thought I would share some thoughts about what a culture is or can be. It, generally patterns of human activity and the symbolic structures, etc. It's also the ways of life, knowledge, experience, customs, beliefs, values, art. I love the art. Attitudes, meanings. That's a big word. Notions of time, etc. Material objects and possessions. Obviously, that is a pretty expansive list, but there's a whole heck of a lot that's involved in culture. Perhaps, more simply, it's what's normal, what's expected, the standard by which judgments are made. And then in a quote from Debbie Irving, who wrote Waking Up White, and I highly commend you reading it. Georgia had made the suggestion that I read it. I already had, but I totally endorse her suggestion. It gets, to me, it gets a little, repetitive, but it really unlocks, I think, a lot. And what she said, seeing is believing, which we've all heard, or is it the other way around? And I think that's maybe a little entree into culture. And now what we're going to be talking about, of course, is white culture. As you know, I'd sent out a couple articles that touch on this question. It's not necessary that you have read them. But at this point, I think we should break out into some rooms. I don't know, 3 people or whatever. Nancy will decide that. I think, breaking into these groups will facilitate some discussion. And, you can tackle the broad question about white culture, does it exist? You can identify examples of what that concept means, or both. So let's see, Nancy, how many minutes should we allot? And I might pop in occasionally to, just see what's happening. 10 minutes? Okay, why don't we
remind again what we're doing.
We're taking a look at white culture. Does it exist? If so, what is it? And that's what we'll be talking about from our experience. What is this thing? Is it just a myth? Is it just some, contemporary lingo that doesn't really mean anything? Or is it something? And if it is, what is it? And what is it to you? So, in the small,
are we asking, why does it matter?
Yeah, you can ask, why does it matter too? It's basically what culture, what is white culture? Does it exist? If so, what is it? Does it matter? Is it important? Should we all just say goodbye and forget it? Don't do that. Don't do that. At least finish your groups. Janet, hang in there for a second. I suggest that you choose like a leader reporter who, like, after 10 minutes, come back and report the results of your little groups, and we'll try to have as much of a full group discussion that we can, maybe come up with 2 or 3 ideas, suggestions, and so on. So, all right. Have I been sufficiently clear about the direction that I'm looking for us to generally take and for you to specifically engage in? Janet, did you have a question?
Yes. I was watching something about a couple of weeks ago, and the way we look at white culture is totally different than the way the Blacks look at white culture. I found that interesting.
That is something I would love for you to discuss in the context of your small group.
Yeah.
So very interesting thought. So, okay.
Just flashing back on one of your racism series, you asked the question, are you racist, to all of us? And with the understanding that most of us probably were racist, but we don't wear it out there. We don't consciously think about it. But I know, at least for me, that made me really deep think as far as, okay, I brought up in this white culture, as we say, with it. So that definition of white culture and racism, how does that coincide? I don't know. It's just, something that's going to be a deep thought.
Well, I think that's something that I mentioned way at the beginning about, at least myself. I felt I couldn't embark on any journey related to this and the general topic of racism without really acknowledging that I was a racist. I could not be in this culture, grow up in this culture, without it. I mean, all sorts of things pop out. I mean, you know, an expression, boy, that idea is so crazy, it's off the reservation. Whoa. You know, and I think the basic, I'm a good guy, you know, I said this before, so I'll be short, but I think we all perceived we were the good guys. You know, we didn't discriminate. We supported civil rights. We're not racists. Well, you know, history kind of shows something different. And by the way, there is one of the first presentations I made on the topic of racism that starts exactly there and kind of talks about the history and so on. But we might want to take a look at some history as well, particularly in the context of white privilege, which some folks had said, you know, we'd mentioned before about maybe discussing that. So anyway, Sue, right on.
The other comment I wanted to make is a procedural.
Yes.
And we talked about our ground rules and keeping confidentiality. This portion of the session I will not include on YouTube, where we're all coming and reporting back about our conversations in our small group. I can make it available to us, but
Okay.
as far as posting it on YouTube for the whole world to
Good
see,
idea. Awesome.
I don't feel comfortable. And if you all
Right.
if you all want to share your message with the rest of the world, I'm not personally that
Okay.
comfortable.
I think that is an absolutely, see there again, what a great idea. You're so helpful, Nancy. I think that is super and will allow us to honor what, you know, we talked about in terms of the rules of the road. I am sensing that it's time to end. But Nancy, do you have a list of the people that came? Okay. You'll be hearing from me. And, you know, both with respect to some changes on our rules of the road. Anyway, I think you know all about that, and suggesting the next adventure, which may very well be on white privilege. And if you guys have any suggestions about how frequently you want to do this, let me know. I don't want to do it any more frequently than monthly, but you know, if you have any thoughts, and just in general, you know, just have at my email. If there's a topic you think we should discuss, if there's something you think should be done, was done really well, was not done very well at all, you know, let me know. But thank you so very much for your interest. You know, it's really what AEW was about in many ways, thinking about others, learning, coming together, listening, sharing. It's really impressive. You move me. So thank you so much. Yeah, George, I see that heart. Yeah, I agree. Thank you. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care. Bye.